Good morning, guys. In last session, we discussed about auto wiring. Auto wiring. Okay. Now, can you guys please tell me what is auto wiring in the Spring and why we need to work with auto wiring?
Injecting dependent.
It is a process of
It is the,
injecting dependent objects
it is
into
the
the target object.
This is the process of informing to IOC to inject.
It is used to inform the IOC container to perform the dependency injection. Okay. Auto wiring is used to inform. Auto wiring is used to inform IOC to perform dependency injection. To perform dependency injection. Okay. To enable to perform auto wire to perform dependency injection. To perform dependency injection, we will use at auto wide annotation. To perform dependency injection, we will use at auto wide annotation. To perform dependency injection, we will use auto wide annotation. What are the modes of the auto wiring? What are the modes of auto wiring? How many
By
modes are
name,
available in
by
auto
type,
wiring? There are
by
three
name,
modes available.
by name, by
One
type,
is by type, another one is by name,
by name,
and third one is constructor.
constructor.
Constructor also will internally uses by type only to perform this auto wiring. Now, can you guys tell me how by type is going to work for auto wiring? Can you guys tell me how by type is going to work for auto wiring? How
By the
by
name
type
of,
is going to work for auto wiring?
by the name
Taking
of that variable type.
Based on the data type of the variable,
Type of
it will identify the dependent object and it is going to inject into target. By type, in by type mechanism, in by type mechanism, in by type mechanism, in by type mechanism, it will identify dependent object based on data type of variable and it will inject it. In the by type mechanism, based on the data type of the variable, it will identify the dependent object and it is going to inject it. So if more than one bin is matching for the data type, then ambiguity problem will occur. If more than one type of the bin is matching, then it will get the ambiguity. How to resolve the ambiguity in the by type mechanism?
primary and
Primary annotation.
Primary, accurate primary.
Ambiguity, to resolve ambiguity problem in by type, we will use at primary, at primary and at qualifier annotation. At primary and at qualifier annotation. Okay. Now, so what is by name? What is by name? What is by name mechanism, guys?
Declaring the
Auto injection will be takes care by using.
What is by name?
Inject dependent of the variable.
Based on name, the auto
What is by name?
dependency will.
What is by name, guys?
Based on the reference of the dependent object, it will perform the auto wiring.
Based on the name of the bin, based on the name of the variable, it is going to identify the dependent object. Based on the name of the variable, it is going to identify the dependent object. Based on the name of the variable, it is going to identify dependent object. Based on the name of the variable, it is going to identify the dependent object. Are you guys clear with this one?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. Now, what do you mean by constructor? What do you mean by constructor?
We are creating that.
Based on constructor reference.
Based on the type of the constructor argument, it is going to identify the dependent object and it is going to inject that into target. It is going to identify that and it is going to inject into target. Okay, good. Now, so with this we understood what is auto wiring and how auto wiring is going to work here. Good, right. By name, we'll use variable name to identify dependent. By name we'll use variable name to identify dependent bean with the dependent bean. Now, constructor mode will use by type mode only to identify dependent object. Constructor mode will use by type mode only to identify dependent object. By type mode only to identify dependent object. Good. Good. So with this we understood what is auto wiring and why we need to go for auto wiring in the Spring. All right.
So auto detect will also be a part of auto wiring.
Auto detect that is in the XML configuration, sir. In the annotation that is not there.
Okay.
All right. And when we, one more thing, when we go for this auto wiring concept, auto wired annotation will take required attribute. Auto wired annotation will take required attribute. That required attribute will tell that dependent object is mandatory or optional. It will decide required is equal to true by default. Auto wired annotation, required attribute value is true. That means dependent object is mandatory to create the target object. Required is equal to true, that is the default behavior of auto wiring. Required is equal to true, that is the default behavior of auto wiring. That is not available, still target bean object will be created. But by default dependents are mandatory. By default dependents are mandatory because it is going to take default value as true. Required is equal to true. Okay. For auto wired annotation, we can auto wired annotation having required attribute. At auto wired annotation having required attribute, its default value is true. That means required is equal to true. It means dependent bean is mandatory to create target bean. So without having the dependent bean, don't create the target bean. That is the meaning of required is equal to true. If I give required is equal to false, dependent bean is optional to create a target bean. Required is equal to true means dependent bean is mandatory to create the target bean. Required is equal to false means dependent bean is optional to create the target bean. Are you guys able to understand?
Yeah,
Are you
so
guys able to understand?
yeah, one doubt.
Yes.
Yeah, so here
Yep.
you wrote constructor mode will use by type mode only to identify dependent object, right?
Exactly.
So what does that mean? Let's say I have constructor, I have depend.
Simple. Hold on. I will clarify you, man.
Okay.
Go for constructor injection application.
Okay.
Dependent object you are taking as a constructor parameter, na?
Yes.
Right. Now here, how it will identify the dependent object? Here I am going for service.
Okay.
Here I am taking here I'm taking object as a parameter.
Yes. Okay.
How it will identify the dependent object now? Based on the data type of the variable.
Okay. Okay.
Based on
I'm
the data
saying,
type of the variable. That
let's
means
say it is interface and it has two implemented classes. So how it will identify?
then you need to specify qualifier here. Then you need to specify qualifier here.
Qualify. Okay. Qualifier for implementation.
Hmm.
Okay. So,
Got it?
yes.
Fine.
Yes. Yes. Got.
Now,
Got it.
so what is the attribute available for auto-wide annotation? Required attribute is available. Required is equal to true. Required is equal to false.
False.
What do you mean by required is equal to true?
Mandatory to target dependent class.
Dependency injection to be performed is mandatory. Then only target bin will be created. If I give required is equal to false, dependent bin is optional to create. I mean, that means if the dependent bin is not available, still target bin object will be
created.
target bin object will be created. Okay, let me prove this. Go to our field injection application, guys. Close this project. Sorry, close all other projects except this. Close unrelated projects. Here, let me delete this. Yeah, keep it, no problem. Start class. I'm not going to call any method, just I will have a start class. I will have a start class. DAO is available and DAO having implementations also. Now, user service is available. User service is having a dependency with the DAO. User service is having a dependency with the DAO. Okay. Now I'm removing all the IMPLs from here. I'm removing all the DAO IMPLs from here. So DAO available as only interface. DAO available as only interface. Now, can IOC inject the interface object here, or IOC cannot inject the interface object here?
Cannot.
IOC can inject the interface object, or IOC cannot inject the interface object now.
Cannot inject, sir.
IOC can inject the interface object, or IOC cannot inject the interface object now.
It can using
No,
deep.
cannot intervention.
It will use the implementation class to inject. But do I have any implementation class to inject, or I don't have any implementation class to inject here?
I don't have any
For
class.
the
We don't
DAO,
have.
for the observe my packages, man. Observe my packages. Do I have any implementation class for the DAO, or I don't have any implementation class available for the user DAO?
Don't have.
No, sir. We
Don't
don't
have.
have.
We don't have.
We don't have it. Now, auto-wide annotation I have given. What is the default value of the required attribute?
False, sir.
What is the default value of the required attribute?
False.
False, sir.
Default.
Default is true.
Default is true. So now application can be started or application cannot be started.
Cannot be started.
Not be
Application
started.
can start or application cannot start.
Started.
Application can start or
Application-
application cannot start.
Application started.
Cannot
No,
start.
sir. Cannot start, sir. I think, sir.
Application cannot start. Why it cannot start?
Because
Implementation
default
not available.
property is true actually. So it will
Because
for
it
user
do-
DAO implementation
auto wiring
it is
required.
not there.
Auto
So
wiring
that
required is equal to true. Auto wiring required is equal to true. It has to inject the dependent object into target. That is mandatory. But to inject the dependent object, auto wiring is mandatory here. Auto wiring is mandatory here because we specified auto wiring annotation here, that is required is equal to true. That is required is equal to true.
So your voice
Fine.
is not
Let's run this
coming.
application. Run as boot app. run as boot app.
Screen is not moving, sir.
Yep. Right click on this application and test it. Right now, application started or application not started? Application not started.
Not started.
Field in the DAO user service required of bean type user DAO that could not be found. The injection point has the following annotation auto void required is equal to true. So did I specify required attribute or I did not specify required attribute? I did not specify.
You didn't set.
I did not specify, but by default it is coming. By default it is coming.
Yes.
All right. Now let me specify. So whenever you write auto wiring, the dependent object should be available. Then only application can be started. Sometimes I will do like this. Required is equal to false. That means what I am telling here. That means what I am telling here. What I am
Dependent
telling
object
here.
Is it optional?
Dependent object is not
Dependent
available.
object is mandatory or dependent object is optional now.
Optional.
Optional now. Dependent object is optional now.
Dependent object is mandatory or dependent object is optional now.
Optional.
Dependent object is
Optional.
Let us try. Let's try. To start the application, is it mandatory or optional? Let us try this. Right. Application started. Our application had started successfully. Application started. Look. So tell me. Do I have the implementation for the DAO or I don't have implementation for the DAO?
Don't have the implementation.
Don't
Don't have the
DAO,
implementation.
without having the implementation also application started or application not started?
Application started, but the
Application started.
no
Yeah, but
Application
no
started
output.
or application not started?
I started.
Application started, but no result found.
Why it started? What dependency injection happened or dependency injection did not happen?
Not happen.
not happen. Not happen.
No, it's happened, but if you're not there, then it's not happen. It's not mandatory. Is there? It is injection.
Optional.
Dependent class is there or not there. It's not necessary, but it is
It is
happening.
optional.
Exactly. Exactly.
But sir, why we will use something if we don't require it?
Sorry,
Yeah.
sir.
Hello.
Whenever you go for auto void annotation, the default value of the auto void required attribute is true. That means dependency injection is a mandatory here. Dependent bean should be available. Then only IOC will start. Then only IOC will start the application. Okay. If you specify required is equal to false, it will not bother about the dependency injection here. If the dependent bean is available, it will inject. If the dependent bean is not available, it will ignore that. It's not mandatory here, but still application will start. But when you call this method, it will fail because the DAO holding a null value, null dot method, null pointer exception. Null dot method, null pointer exception. Null dot method, null pointer exception it is going to throw. If the dependent bean is available, if the dependent bean is available, it is going to inject that bean. If the dependent bean is not available, it will not throw any exception. Simply, it will start the application. Simply, it is going to start the application. Got my point?
Yes.
Guys, do you understand what is the required attribute?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Sir,
sir.
any practical use case where required equal false can be used?
When you are having some dependents, let me think about the practical use case. 2 DAOs I am injecting. 2 DAOs I am injecting. If one DAO is not available, then I can go for another DAO to retrieve the data.
Sir. Hello,
Yep.
sir. Here, null
Yes,
values
sir.
coming even required equals to false. Sir, how can we check this using optional class?
I did not get you.
Sir, here in DO, null values coming as required equals to false. So this can be checked by using optional class also, na?
No, that you can't go to check also, right? Because whenever you call this method, it will fail here only, na? Because the variable itself is holding a null value. Null dot method.
Actually, I want to see how to use the optional class.
Optional class you can't use here, madam. Optional class, whenever you retrieve the data, once your DAO is available, once you want to retrieve the data from, once you retrieve the data from the DAO, then you can check whether this data is available or not. First of all, your DAO itself is not available.
Okay, so here we can't use optional class, no?
No. Good. So with this, we understood what is auto wiring and what are the modes of the auto wiring also. So IOC container, dependency injection, auto wiring. Are you guys comfortable with those concepts now? These are the fundamental concepts of the Spring framework. So what is IOC container? IOC container, dependency injection, in that setter injection, constructor injection, field injection, auto wiring modes, qualifier, primary, and primary. Anybody having questions from these concepts? Anybody having questions from these concepts?
No.
All of you comfortable with all these concepts, na?
Shoti.
Hello. Can you hear
Yep.
me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you.
Sir, in constructor auto wiring, if we use more than one interface, so how we can use qualifier attribute there, sir?
Sorry?
In constructor auto wiring, if you are using more than one interface.
Where you will use more than one interface?
As a dependent objects, we are using more than one interface. So there, how we can use qualifier?
One second. Now you are talking about, this is my constructor injection. Here I am injecting user DAO object. That user DAO object I am taking as a parameter here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sir, if we are injecting 2 or more interfaces, so implementation class object, it will take, na, sir?
Now you specify qualifier here.
Sir, in which order it will take?
Which order means?
In qualifier, we have to specify the implementation class object name, na, sir? So if we are using 2 interfaces as a dependent objects, so in which
user
order
DAO. Okay, for every interface you are having 2 implementations.
Yes.
Yeah, then you can
we can defer that.
Yeah, you have a report DAO here. Okay, for user DAO you have 2 implementations. For report DAO also you have 2 implementations.
Yes.
Okay, let me try. Can we specify qualifier here? Yep, you can specify at this argument type, right? Here
Okay,
you can
sir.
specify, here you can specify.
Okay,
Okay.
sir. Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Good. Yeah. Any other questions, anyone? What is the purpose of a primary annotation?
Primary to
What is it?
resolve
Quali-
ambiguity issues.
In
To
qualifier,
resolve the ambiguity issues, which will
Sir.
give the whenever more
Sir,
than one bean is qualified for the auto wiring, whenever
Right.
more than one bean is qualified for the auto wiring.
Yeah, two classes having equal priority, then we can go with the primary.
Yep. If more than one bean is eligible for the auto wiring, so to decide which bean we have to inject, for
Yes,
that we
sir.
are going for at primary annotation.
Yes,
If
sir.
I go for qualifier, what will happen?
Qualifier means we have to mention the
If I
particular
go for
bean.
qualifier, what will happen?
So in qualifier, we need to
Auto
mention the particular
wiring
bean.
is happens by using by name, sir.
Yep,
So by name it
exactly.
will happen.
It's a particular
Exactly. It will
bean.
remove the confusion based on the name of the bean. Based on the name of the bean.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a
The
particular
main
bean.
Based
intention
on the
of the
name of the
accurate
bean, it is
qualifier
going
is
to
to
identify
avoid
which one it has to
ambiguity
inject.
problem.
Yes, a particular bean we
Yep,
need
it
to
is going
mention in
it is used to
qualifier.
resolve that ambiguity problem.
Yes,
It is used to resolve that ambiguity problem.
it's a particular
Got
bean we
it?
need to mention, sir, in qualifier.
Exactly. Name we need to specify that particular bean it is going to inject.
Yes, sir.
Good.
So in qualifier, we can also write like that qualifier name equals to, then we pass the those many parameter we have.
Mm-hmm.
Can we write like
Can you
this?
come again?
Qualifier.
Can you come again?
Qualifier. After that name equals to, we can mention that variable, and inverted comma is there for specify the 2 or 3 variables like that. We can pass. It is possible.
Yep.
Okay.
Sir, setter injections, I don't think so. We are using, I think. We are not using setter injection, I think.
Yeah, we don't use that rejection actually.
Okay, and sir,
We are using
sir,
field injection only, sir.
Sir, what if field
Our company
injection?
also we are using field injection.
Field injection?
Sir, if field
Your question is
injection
not clear, sir.
Sir, my question is, if field injection has so many drawbacks, then why do we use field injections? Even though
Sir,
we
I
are
told you,
using...
people who are not aware of those drawbacks, they will use field injection. People who knows that, they will not use it.
Is there any issue if I use that field injection, sir? If any issues?
You are only saying that there are drawbacks available. Those are the drawbacks.
No, sir.
Those are the drawbacks.
Even the drawbacks are there, but we are using that, sir. There is no issue, no, sir. If
Issue is
you
not there, man. Issue is not there. Why? Because if you inject 10 objects as a variables, maintenance is increasing or maintenance is decreasing. That is the issue, right?
Yes, sir.
Your class is violating single responsibility principle. That is the issue.
Okay.
That is the issue.
So limitations of auto wiring basically.
Limitations means it can be done only for referenced objects, guys. Suppose if I have integer I want to do auto wiring for this. Is it going to work or it is not going to work?
Not work.
Auto wiring. Is it applicable for that?
Not work.
Not work.
Why?
No.
Because we can inject.
That is a primitive type, right? That is a primitive type.
Wiring is not support for
That is a primitive type.
Sir, is it possible to, extend the integer class and use qualifier that it can inject it?
By using value.
Wrapper
We cannot.
classes. Wrapper class. What injection it will do? Null value only it is going to inject, right? If auto wiring should be used only for reference to types.
Okay.
Sir, one question. Hello.
Yep.
Suppose there is a user DOO class, and
Sorry?
we don't have direct implementation of a user DOO class, but there is user DAO. Hello.
Yep. Tell me, I'm getting your point. There is a
And
user DAO,
we
but
don't
there is
have
no implementation.
implementation for the, but
Yeah.
yes, but we are extending the user DAO class.
Interface
So
is there.
that extended class will get injected.
Exactly.
No, not interface. User DAO,
Yep.
user
But it's
DAO is a class, and
man, your question is not clear, man.
He's telling
okay.
about inheritance. User DO, some class extends the user DO.
User DAO is a class. It is having a subclass. Then
Yes, and
after that,
so that subclass can we inject into the user DO, or since I mean,
first of all,
is it
user
possible?
DAO itself is a class. If it is a user DAO itself is a class, that user DAO class only will be injected directly. Why it will inject the subclass here?
No, I mean using qualifier or using primary, something like that.
You can do that, no problem. Because superclass variable can hold subclass object.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, we are good, sir.
Yep, fine.
And so Spring support to JSR 250, right? Spring Boot will be same for JSR 250?
Specification?
Specification, yes. Java standardized specification.
Yeah,
So,
I have not seen the number of that, sir. I have not seen the number. Maybe it will be having a different specification because this is a different approach of development, right? But
yes,
I'm not sure
that's
with
why
that number. I need to check.
asking you.
Yep, I need to
Okay,
check
okay.
that specification.
Okay, sir.
Can we use auto-air annotation for injecting string values? Means as you do in
No, man. No, you should not.
Auto-while
Auto-wide should be used only for user-defined classes and predefined reference types, sir. Reference types. If I do auto-wiring for a string, what value IOC has to inject to that variable? Suppose I will write a private string f name. Then I will do auto-wiring. What value it has to inject for that?
Yeah,
Does
null
it
value.
guess what is the first name and it will inject it? Can it inject that?
Yeah.
No. So auto-wiring should be used for reference types, not for the data type, like primitives and wrappers, not. No.
Sir, can apply for the
But sir, arrays are also reference.
So array also is reference to type, sir, but apply your common sense. I will declare a variable integer array like this, and I will specify auto wiring. What values it will store? What values it has to store for that? Integer values. What integer values it has to store? Can it guess the integer values and can it store it?
No.
So in XML configuration, we can use property tag to inject. Yes, but in AutoAdd that is not possible.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hello, sir.
Yep.
For both predefined and user-defined reference, we can specify to it. No?
Exactly.
So auto-wired in Spring and auto-wired in Spring Boot. The major difference is basically XML configurations.
Yeah. Sorry. Can you come again?
Auto-wired in Spring, right?
Yep.
And auto-wired in Spring Boot. So
Both are same.
So no major differences. No difference
No,
basically. Okay.
Nothing. In the
Okay.
Spring,
Hmm.
you need to enable the auto wiring manually, whereas in
Hmm.
the Spring Boot that is already enabled.
Okay.
Sir,
Concept-wise, both are same.
Okay.
Concept-wise, both are same.
does Spring Boot contain Core 5 or in?
Sorry?
Suppose, I mean, in the Spring Boot, the Spring Core version is 5 or
Question is not clear.
Spring Boot uses Spring Core version. Is it?
Please type in the chat box.
Hello, sir.
Yep.
Sir, will you please share yesterday's class recording and today's class recording?
Sure, today I will send it, sir.
Okay.
Sir, in my project, if requirement is injecting integer value, a wrapper value, how to inject, sir?
We should not do that, sir. Auto wiring is not going to work for that.
Sir, you
Auto
said,
wiring is not going to work for that.
sir, you said I will send all the backups or notes file and in the mail and confirmation confirmation is also, but in my you didn't send me, sir. It's Kanish Fatma.
Kanish, I have sent only yesterday's video is pending. Remaining all videos I have shared already.
No, sir.
Today also-
Microservice. I didn't received any mail.
Today I will send it once again. Okay. If you did not receive today, please
I also did not
send a
receive.
message.
Sure.
Sorry?
I also did not receive.
Yeah, Channa by Ghani. Man, I think you enrolled yesterday, right? Today you will get that mail.
No. I enrolled Jan first.
Then daily I'm sending emails. Yesterday
Yeah,
I did not
daily
send
I'm
it, but-
getting. I'm getting daily, but yesterday I did not get.
Yeah, yesterday I did not send it. Today I will send it. Yesterday's video and today's video I will send it. Good. Fine, guys. Please complete all the backup videos by today. Those videos will be deleted from the Google. Some of the videos in the YouTube they will be
Hello?
available.
Hello?
Videos for the
Today we
Zoom
have
will be deleted.
a class.
Sir,